2.
Hi everybody, my name is Jason LaPointe, and first off I want to thank everybody for wanting, or for taking time out of your day to listen to me speak for a few minutes, and I really appreciate it. What I want to ask you to do right now is just kind of use your imagination a little bit, and imagine that you're part of the Cherokee Indian tribe around the 1830s, and just kind of think about how life would have been around this time, and you might think it's a little bit easier. We don't have a lot of the stresses that we have today, and you know, just kind of, it just seems like it's carefree, kind of. But in 1830, there was a policy that was signed by President Andrew Jackson that was named the Indian Removal Act of 1830, which would also be known later on as the Trail of Tears. And of course, the Trail of Tears was when the Indians were forcibly removed from their lands and taken to the Indian Territory, which is now Oklahoma. And now think what would be going through your head if you lived in this time. You're probably thinking that you're probably angry, or you're probably fearful for your future generations, fearful for a lot of, you know, or the fact of that your generations are, you probably won't have anymore because you're getting forced. A lot of the Indians are dying on the trail, and there's probably no hope. But today I want to introduce to you a person by the name of William Holland Thomas. Will is what everybody called him. He was basically, has been honored as the sole purpose or the sole reason for the existence of the Cherokee tribe as it is today. Now, William Holland Thomas was born on February 5th, 1805 in North Carolina. He was born to a single mother, and he didn't know his father because his father actually died before he was born in a tragic accident. And but throughout his life, he would be known as an entrepreneur, a lawyer, a politician, Confederate colonel, and also he would be known as the first white Cherokee chief ever for the Cherokee people. Now, until he was 16, he really had no formal education, you know, despite the professions that I just listed. And in his youth, he excelled in biblical readings and studies. He was also a mathematician. He worked in a trade post for most of his youth, and he had a co-worker who was Cherokee from the local tribe in North Carolina. And he learned a lot of the Cherokee customs, the language, and everything about the tribe from this guy. And this person ended up introducing him to the tribe, and over a period of time he was actually adopted by the Cherokee tribe and started to develop a pretty close relationship with the current chief, which is Chief Yonaguska, which is also Chief Drowning Bear. Now, like I said earlier, there was the policy that was signed off in 1830 for the removal of all the Indians that were east of the Mississippi to go west of the Mississippi to what is now Oklahoma. In 1835, William Holland Thomas, now becoming a lawyer, actually a self-taught lawyer, when he was 16, I'm going to backtrack a little bit, when he was 16, he owned his own business. And in the first of 5 stores that he had a whole bunch of lawyer books. And he taught himself by reading lawyer books. And back then, that was okay. If you knew about the law and how to practice it, you could technically become a lawyer. And in 1835, after becoming very close with the Cherokee Indian tribe and with the chief and being a lawyer, and then having a lot of business experience, he was able to go to Washington, D.C., lobby for the preservation of a lot of the Cherokee people. And at that moment, he did get the preservation of a lot of Cherokees. But eventually, the government came through and started pushing a lot of Cherokees out. During the Trail of Tears era, about 1,000 or so Cherokees escaped into the mountains. And individuals got a safe haven through William Holland Thomas. Now, William Holland Thomas would eventually be known as the sole reason for a lot of the sole reason for the current existence of the eastern, what they call Eastern Band of the Cherokee tribe. And then in 1839, the Chief Yonaguska had passed away, and while he was on his deathbed, he told all his tribesmen that he wanted Will to be the new reigning chief because of all the contributions that he had given to the tribe. Now, while he was giving safe haven to all these Cherokee Indians, he was also, in turn, purchasing a lot of land through his wealth that he got through his businesses. Now, he bought up so much land, by the time the Indian removal, all that policy had gone through, he accumulated more land than the Vanderbilts. And of course, the Vanderbilts were the descendants of Cornelius Vanderbilt, who was the 10th wealthiest individual in history. He built railroads throughout the Tennessee, North Carolina, and the whole southeast, railroads, coal mines, etc. So as chief, Will as chief, he was able to hold talks with business owners to accumulate more land for the Cherokee people, because he would buy it, but then he would put it in a trust for the Cherokee Indians. So he was able to help the Cherokees basically go get their homeland back, but it would be a generation or so later. Now, you can let him down. Now, as he got older, he eventually did marry at the age of 51 to a 24-year-old lady at the name of Sarah Jane Burney Love in 1857. They had 3 kids. They all stayed in North Carolina. Now, Civil War started in 1861. In 62, William Holland Thomas would become a colonel for the Confederate Army. He stayed in the Civil War till the end, but literally the entire time he was in the war, he was in court all the time, because a lot of the people he had fighting for him were Indians or his slaves. And actually a lot of the slaves that he did have were a lot of his friends. He befriended a lot of slaves, and of course the Indians. And a lot of the upper ranks within the Confederate Army did not like that at all. They thought it was against the whole purpose of the Civil War, so they kept trying to throw him out of the war, but somehow he just kept coming back. The court system just could not get William Holland Thomas out of the war, so he was there till the end of it. Now, after the war, William Holland Thomas pretty much stayed in an asylum for the rest of his life. Just with all the trauma, he was diagnosed with dementia, and then he was let go, and then he eventually went back because he had lost his wife, and he pretty much stayed there the rest of his life. He spent his last days in that asylum, and he died on May 10th, 1893, and ironically that was exactly 28 years after the capture of President Jefferson Davis, when the Union had captured him to end the Civil War completely. Now, so that being said, Cherokee Chief Little Will is what he was called, died at the age of 88, and to this day he has memorials scattered all over the eastern band of Cherokee land in honor of one of their white chief for his contributions for the tribe. With his life and wealth, he was a very selfless individual. He was always on the brink of bankruptcy because he was always giving everything away, even though he was very wealthy. And then, so in conclusion, if you're really ever wondering how it was over the last 200 to 300 years when there was conflicts of the Indians and the white settlers, you'd think it was horrifying and everybody wanted the Indians gone. But William Holland Thomas was definitely an individual that was not that way, and he is the sole purpose for the current existence of the Eastern Band.